Yes, yes, yes. Good evening and welcome. Anywhere in the world you are, of course, we have a nice range of topics that we want to cover this evening. Um, Foremost among which is the question of have we allowed the Jamaican police to return to what had been a charge leveled against them over the years of being judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, I said it. Is the Jamaican police now judges, jurists, and executioners by virtue of the current approach that they are now taking in the way they go about their policing activities? It's an important issue, a significant question, if you ask me, because I believe we are at an inflection point with respect to the whole business of how the country addresses its crime management problem. Because don't make no ghost fool you. Jamaica have a serious crime problem. We have a serious problem. And we have an unenviable record of destroying our population, both at the level of the criminals and now at the level of the police. And you might wonder, why am I saying that? But let's take a look at the facts as it relates to crime in Jamaica. And we're gonna deal specifically with the crime of murder. Murder, Jamaica ranks among the top 5 most murderous country in the world. That's a fact. The statistics tells you that. And don't let nobody tell you, say, boy, Jamaica, they might exaggerate the numbers because Jamaica only have a small population. That's a bull crap argument. Our reality is that for the better part of the last 40 years, 40, yeah, Jamaica has been murdering on an average 11 to 1200 of its population. 11 to 1200 members of the Jamaica population have been murdered annually over the last 40 years. Those are the facts. We peaked at one stage where our murder tally for 1 year, I think it was 2016 or 2017. In fact, it was 2017 where the murder total was 1,700 Jamaicans murdered in that year. This is a country that is not at war. Clearly, we're at war with ourselves. But what is important is that as staggering as these figures are, and when you look at the timetable, the timeline with which they have been, going on, right? The period over which all of this has been taking place. Jamaica, the political handlers in Jamaica, and I'm not making any exceptions for nobody now, because the two sides guilty as charged, right? neither the Jamaica Labour Party nor the People's National Party have been able to come up with any workable approaches that would redound to a cauterizing of the bloodletting amongst Jamaicans. In fact, what we have done over the period, over those 4 decades, and I'm using those 4 decades because over the last 40 years, I would have been at the beginning point of those 40 years, I would have been 20 odd years old. So I'm a big man. I may have pay attention to them things from them time. You want to know what 40,000 people, 40 years at just about 1,100 people being killed amounts to just over 45,000 Jamaicans have been murdered over the period. And you want to know what 45,000 people look like? Imagine the National Stadium. We just finished champs where on the peak day, Saturday, the stadium was full to the gills with 35,000 people. So imagine the stadium full, 35,000 people, and then imagine 1/3 of that added to that amount. That's what 45,000 people dead look like, right? Now, and we can break this down in all kinds of different statistics, but the bottom line is that we are killing a massive amount of people in the country, right? And so when we look at the trajectory of the murders, first of all, there is some 30% of that number, right, which is just about 300 and maybe 25 people every year, right? They are killed as a result of domestic or family disputes. So we call those murders domestic murders, not criminal murders, right? Two men have a dispute, or a man and a woman have some dispute. Either she a give him bun or him a give her bun, and one of them find out. And rather than sit down and work it out, murder commit. And if me can't get you, nobody else now get you. So we kill one another. And that kind of thing rolls through. Oral, thanks for joining. So that kind of activity rolls through the body populace of Jamaica. And what it does is that it says, because it speaks to who we are. When as people, as human beings, we don't have the ability to subject ourselves to any kind of reason. In other words, two people have a disagreement, and instead of trying to seek some sort of an intermediary or to have a dialogue amongst each other so they can address or resolve the issues, you resort to violence. But the critical point is that all of this speaks to levels of preparedness of a population by the people who run the who are in charge of the country. So and this is the perspective that I want to look at this thing for, because again, I'm telling you, I've been following this thing from as far back, right, as when I got into my 25th year, and I'm 60 odd years of age now. I have been speaking, writing. In fact, I've written a book on this whole question of violence and our penchant for violent behavior as Jamaicans. I wrote on it. I wrote a novel on this some time ago called Top Rankings, which was essentially looking at the trail. How did we come to where we are? And I'm satisfied. that in the first instance, we have to look at the elements of socialization, right? I had my first picnic when I was 27, 27 years of age, right? My first child contributed to the birth of my first child. I was 32 when my second child was born. But by that time, I had had the benefit of good schooling. Plus, I had, good parental upbringing, right? A lot of the problems that we have as a country in terms of the value that we place on human lives and on each other's lives is a function of our socialization, right? We have a situation in Jamaica where, to a large extent, right? To a large extent, Marcus Reed, I'm glad you joined it, right? And I'm gonna take some of the questions that you raised, because we have to look beyond these, the what I call the excitable commentary. We have to look beyond that, because my conversation here is not about trying to point finger. And even if we are talking about pointing finger, it is pointing finger at ourselves and those who are responsible for the ordering of the society. Because every 5 years we go to elections, or we elect a group of people to govern the country. And so what I've observed over the decades of watching this thing, of studying this thing, is that to a large extent in Jamaica, our policy framers are not interested in developing the Jamaican population, right? What we have pursued an education policy in Jamaica over the years, which is designed to keep people in a state of ignorance. Because if a man can't read and write properly, him can't reason properly. Now, those are facts, right? Because the education, your ability to read and write, influences your ability to process that information. And in the course of your ability to process information, it allows you to think things through. It allows you to develop a value system, right? And what Jamaicans, my observation is over the years, is that we have lost that value, that sense of value, not only in ourselves, but in each other. And so it is against that background that when we have disagreement, disaffection, we feel that the answer lies in eliminating the source of that. And so within the criminal culture, that has arisen in Jamaica, implicit in it is that kind of underdevelopment in terms of the mental capacity of the average Jamaican who operates. And so let's step back a little bit. Right now we have in Jamaica, we have a school system that is inadequate. At every level, it is inadequate, right? We have, and people will quickly, readily jump up and say, boy, some of the people that have picnic not supposed to have picnic. Bullshit, right? What we need is to have a developmental program for our population and a path through which we order this development. And the first line of that is your school system. So if from what we call the early childhood education, you're not focusing on developing people's appreciation for life and so on from as a child. So they're going to matriculate from the preschool into the primary level with at least a base understanding of what this is all about, right? And then as you develop on that at the primary level, you take it into the secondary school system. The problem is that in Jamaica, we have sacrificed development or the development of our people. Meaning, instead of we invest in educating our population, what we do is that we have maintained an apartheid-like structure with respect to how education is delivered in Jamaica across the board. And so in an apartheid system, it is only a handful of our student population that is able to flow through the system. So of 200 and what is it? 200 and 168 secondary schools, which includes the junior secondary and high schools. Well, in fact, this includes only what we call high school, right? Not the junior secondary schools, right? Market them not much of that anymore because most of them have been upgraded into high schools, or by putting a sign on the gate that them now turn high school. But you don't provide these schools with the material that is needed to provide the kind of education from which your population can develop. So what we have is we have what we call elite schools. I will proudly talk about elite schools, meaning the immaculates and the champions and so on, the top of the line schools, right? And so within this cadre of elite schools, there are about 25 or 30 of them, but to a large extent, you're looking at about 48 to 50 schools in Jamaica, the entire Jamaica, right? And of these 50 schools, the top 30 of these schools will matriculate some up to about 70%, 70% or 75% of cohort will matriculate out of the system. In other words, these are schools that they are required that the kids pass 5 CXC subjects, which will allow them to move on, right? Probably go on to sixth form or university or so on, or be better prepared for getting into some other level of tertiary training and things. But only 75% of the top 50 schools are passing 70+% of their cohort passing 5 subjects. So the remaining, and we're talking about on an average cohort, the number of kids who are sitting final exams in 5th form or grade 11. Now, of the remaining, remember now we're talking about 168 schools, and we are only accounting for 50. The remaining 128 schools, right? 80% of those schools are not realizing passes of better than 2 subjects, right, per student out of the cohort that is sitting these final exams. So in other words, 60 odd % of your kids that are in the secondary school system, by the time they finish their 5 years that they're in school, they are no better than how they went in. A lot of these kids are going into school at high school level and them can't read and write because them had little or no preparation at the primary level, right? Which is what would send them into the secondary school system. So here's the problem. One, the vast majority of our kids coming out of the secondary school system go to schools primarily as daycare centers. The schools are warehouses for our children because the kids are leaving school and them now have no subject behind them name. The majority of our kids who go to secondary school don't pass 1 or 2 subjects after 5 years in a secondary school system. Or if you add them primary school years after 10, 11 years of schooling, them don't have nothing to show for it. So what is that producing now? If your mental faculty is underdeveloped, right? It means that you cannot process the whole business of issues that normally you can talk through, right? Instead, your approach is violence, right? No. We also have to, just to add to all of that, this population, and remember, 38,000 kids are graduating from school every year, finishing secondary school. And of that 30,000 kids that leave school, less than 10,000 of them is qualified to do anything. So you have 20,000 kids who every year is coming into the system and them have no preparation for them. They're not qualified to do anything, even if there were jobs that could absorb them. They're not qualified for the job because you need to matriculate at a certain level, right? To add to that, we have an economic development policy that focuses on paying people low wages. So none of the youth them who leave school, they now plan to go work for $1,500, $15,000 a week or thereabouts, because that can't do nothing. So we have a system of development that doesn't consider your human capital. And because you make no investment or very little investment in your human capital, what happens now is that they become fodder for antisocial activities and antisocial behavior. And by that, I'm talking about criminal activity, right? Jamaica is a criminal-based environment, right? I lived through the period of the 1970s when we were, morphing into the drug smuggling business, ganja smuggling, right? In those early days, you never have the kind of technology that look into people's luggage and up. Basically, you could have put a suitcase full of ganja and walk through the airport with it, and you got America, you got to sell drugs. And so over a period of time, people found themselves, Opal Morris Powell, good to see you, as usual. And I wanted to invite your friends them to join the conversation because this is an important topic and I really want to get feedback. And Marcus, we don't go nowhere. So what I'm saying is, what we have is a situation now where we don't prepare our puppet. We have made no investment because we love to talk about Campion and Immaculate and Andrews and Woolmers and so on. And we're only talking when at the end of the day, I mean, I went to Casey. I also went to Camperdown to the sixth form, right? And those two schools range anywhere. I think Camperdown is probably averaging rank about 40 out of the 168. Casey is about between 22 or 23 and so on. But those schools are not the only schools in Jamaica. And so even though they're doing well with those schools, there is more than 60 odd other schools that not doing a goddamn thing with the kids. And so when those kids leave those schools, right, there is not enough investment in the country that allows for the raising up of businesses to absorb them. And so what these kids are left to do is to go find them own way, right? And in a country where drug running, scamming, banduloism is the order of the day. We have an informal economic sector that is greater than the formal sector. More than 50% of what operates with as the Jamaican economy is in the informal sector. That means people don't know about them. Them not register as businesses. In other words, more people are prepared to just go try a thing. And by trying a thing, it opens you up to all kind of illegal or antisocial activities that people, because it's income generating, right? They at a certain level, the powers that be will embrace it and even encourage it, right? Them turn a blind eye, right? We know say John Brown I sell weed or I sell coke, but John Brown don't use the weed money and him set up a bar and him set up a restaurant and then him can bring in all kind of him provide some amount of employment, right? But at the base level, it's part of the illegal activity, but we smile on it, right? And as long as people can get a money at the end of the week, you know, we raise minimum wage. A large percentage of our population, you know, are domestic workers, what we call piece rate workers, them, you know, days worker, that kind of thing, job work, right? We don't have an economy that is robust enough to be able to absorb the lion's share of these youngsters who are coming out of the school system, right? I know I'm not for this. So the scammer man, him have a ready group of people to fill him ranks. The gang, you have a whole heap of youth in Jamaica who them father fire a seed, breed a woman, and them gone. Chances are them dead or they're prison, and so that picnic now turn up, grow up, the mother have to go look to other man for help her for, you know, for turn things. And chances are she breed two more time and bring some more youth and them now a father. So them youth when them come out of the school system, right? Them now have a father figure. So the gang thing becomes a respite for them, right? Them not necessarily look on the gang and somewhere them are going to go fire gun and all of that, but at that it a come with. But at least within the framework of this gang environment, them can get something for eat at night time. Them can a little hustling go on and some money drop off on them. Because them not qualified for do no work nowhere else. Them can't get a job. Right? And in any event, no job no there for them. Right? And this is the kind of environment that we have. Right? This is what produces the criminal activity. And so what we have, the gang is sucking up that providing for the vacuum created by the absence of what we call structured parental development, parental guidance or societal guidance, right? Because the system that operates in Jamaica, that's what it lends itself to. So the country, by the way it disinvest in the young people of the country, is breeding the criminal, the bands of criminality that operate in the country. Think about it, right? I don't care who is the government. What I'm providing you guys out there with are the facts. These are the facts, right? This is how Jamaica works. So not because you have a nice job or you live in America, yeah, so or you know things are going good for you. You don't understand what are going on the street down a yard, right? You don't understand that. Jamaica's GDP per capita is $6,200 per person, right? By comparison with some of our neighbors, Barbados, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, St. Lucia, these countries all have one thing in common. Their GDP per capita is at least 3 times better than Jamaica, who have 10, 20 times more resources to our disposal than those islands. That means it's not that we can't do it. What They are doing something that we in Jamaica refuse to do to raise our GDP. Jamaica is a consuming economy because we don't make shit. Whether people want to, don't make a factory or whatever, don't mean nothing, right? Because we have to import electricity by virtue of the fact that we have to import oil for run our turbines and provide electricity. So we import everything. Every factory down in Jamaica suffer from having to deal with importing the inflation from the exporting country that them buy raw materials from to make anything. So you can't make nothing to sell it back because you're in a trouble already. Your exchange rate is a function of your low productivity, and your low productivity is the result of your political master's inability to motivate the people with business people in the country to make meaningful investment in raising the productivity of its population and the country by extension. So that is the cesspool that breeds the criminality, right? And so, you know, if you imagine every little hustling that develop, right? Jamaica big in it. When Ponzi scheme are run, right? Cash plus, all in, right? Partner draw, all of the scamming. These are levels of scamming. And let me go beyond that, because in the 1980s, Edward Seaga was the Prime Minister of Jamaica, right? And we created what we call we sowed the seeds. First of all, Seaga sowed the seeds of the destruction of the Jamaican economy from the mid 1970s, when they undermined the Manley administration and encouraged investment in the foreign investors in Jamaica to leave, right? And so we bring the country down to the floor, to the ground. And when he took over 1980, what he created was a dual exchange rate system. So you have an exchange rate, we have two different level exchanges. We have one where you call it the official rate, where they exchange $1 US to value something like $5 odd Jamaican, right? And then you have an unofficial rate, which is about 30% more than that. So by virtue of that, what you are now doing is creating this umbrella within the economy. So people who earn US dollar not going to turn it into the system, back into the banking system, because they can sell it on the street at the unofficial rate and make a 30-40% windfall on every dollar that they earn, right? And then, because of the uncertainties in the economy, those who were doing well, and plus at that time is when the drug thing is taking set, right? The government introduced the high interest rate regime. And what the high interest rate regime did is that you start to offer people higher rates of return for keeping your money in the bank, because the argument was people are borrow money to buy US dollar for speculate on the US dollar. So in order to hold on the rate of exchange, instead of increase productivity and increase the investment in the population so you can grow the economy, what we did is that we offer higher rates of interest to people with money. And what those people did is that they ground the economy to nothing, right? And so a man now can realize, I can make 20% by putting my money in the bank, and I don't have no risk because the bank will give me 20%. And so as we mushroomed this approach to maintaining these high interest rate regimes, what we were doing is feeding the beast. So instead of encouraging people to invest their money in developing the economy, people were putting their money into certificates of deposits and buying government paper, because they might get higher interest rates. And by the time we got into the 90s, it became even worse, right? The People's National Party, who took over, took it to an entirely different level. And so what we did is that we fed people's appetite for high returns on investment. And that's what opened the door for cash plus and all-in and the partner scamming and then ultimately the lottery scamming. Because people are looking for opportunities to make higher rates of return. You're not encouraging people to invest their money for run business, right? You tell park your money in the bank. And so people that drive Mercedes Benz and Bentley and all kind of fancy, but the country now produce nothing, and then you have a stock market that is now flying like a eagle, but we have no productivity to back it. So what am I saying? All of these factors goes towards undermining the investment in developing an economy that would have been able to encourage not only higher rates of production, but it encouraged the development of a more educated and intellectually sound population, right? That you can then use that to attract better investment. So we saw the seeds of our destruction over the years. And what it has amounted to is the problem that we have. Add to that, in the 1980s, we move away from smuggling ganja to smuggling cocaine because Jamaica now had a big port, one of the best ports in the world, and nobody loves a big port than a drug smuggler. And so we were now a conduit for moving cocaine from Colombia into the Americas and into the rest of Europe, because it come through the ports and things. And a lot of that drugs sometimes get left back in Jamaica until it can find its way. And so the gang culture develop around that, right? The community done who will provide the conduit for things. We have the big dance, where you call it, the Raytown dance, which was a nice little outlet for people go down and go buy coke. Nobody know want to talk about that, right? And anyway, you run drugs, are gonna have gangs to defend it. And if you have gang, you have to have God, right? And because Jamaica has developed this corrupt portal to support all of this, because none of this can go on without the corruption. And the corruption starts where, again, because you have an underdeveloped economy, right? People now make nothing, but Jamaica people like nice things. Jamaica people we nearest, 101 and change for fly come a Miami, right? So you come to Miami and you see the nice things that you wanted. So we developed a informal commercial environment where people want the nice things in America, right? The government, instead of encourage people to produce, you start to charge higher duties on imports. And so people want to keep this going. So you find a customs man who you can give him money and him look the other way. And in addition to uncustom goods that come through the thing, other contraband that go through to like gun, drugs. And out of all of this, the criminal community is raising itself. So today, what we have, because as all of this is going on, as the drugs start to take over, the guns have to run with that. And the guns are there to protect the drugs and then to a lesser extent to protect communities. And then, of course, you have communities that up in arms against each other, right? And the result of that is the bloodletting. So the murder tally starts to rise, right? And you want to take a look at the statistics, because it started in 1989 when we had 890 odd people murdered. And in order to take shame out of them, the politicians them call it political violence. Bullshit. Murder is murder, right? It no matter you murder and the politician and murder same way. And so we find ways to excuse it. We turn a blind eye. We have underdeveloped communities where people are living on the margin. So them depend on the don, them depend on the gangs, right? And in order to maintain that status quo, the gunman becomes important. The gunman also had some importance in the political war period because they maintain the garrisons. So the politicians are part of the problem. The long story short, that's what has given us the positions where we find ourselves in. And instead of, you know, looking to develop the people, right? When we had FinSac, where the PNP government and them foolishness that cost the country some $150 billion, right? And the government found the money to bail out the banks and the insurance companies, right? If we were prepared to invest even 10% of that in the educational development of our country, this is the 1990s, that's 30 years ago. Just imagine what kind of country we would have been. We have had multiple opportunities to transform our country, but our political masters are not interested in doing that, right? They're not interested. And so what we have is a situation where we leave the people to their own devices. And of course, without leadership, is anybody's game. Over the course of the 1990s to 2024, Jamaica murdered some 11 to 1,200 Jamaicans every year. In addition to that, right, we use now the police, because rather than look at how can we reorient our society, what we do is that we arm the police, bigger gun, more armored car, right? Between 2015 and 2024, the security forces in Jamaica killed some 1,323 people, right? That is 147 people killed by police in Jamaica every year over those years, right? 147. As of yesterday, the Jamaican police would have killed 96 Jamaicans. 96 Jamaicans shot dead by the police in Jamaica, right? And nobody is prepared to call it what it is. We are buying into the argument that, boy, crime high and we have to kill off some of the criminals. How do we know that these people who are being killed are all criminals? Isn't Jamaica a signatory to the basic human rights protocols that says that every man, as a citizen of Jamaica, you have a right to due process? That's what police is there for. Police take on a job to provide the security guardrails of the country. And those rails don't mean that because you are now police, you have the right to kill your fellow Jamaican because you suspect that him is a criminal. Him or she is a criminal. But that's where we are. That is where we are right now, right? We are at this inflection point where what we are doing is 96 people have been shot and killed by police in Jamaica since the start of the year. And it appears that this spiraling situation will only become an emergency when the police disposes of someone from a connected family or somebody who is deemed of substance, right? What has happened with us is that we have been sold, Jamaicans have been sold by our political masters, sold the argument that people from the lower socioeconomic backgrounds, residents from inner city, underdeveloped and marginalized communities are always to be deemed as suspects or potential criminals who are looking for the slightest opportunities to commit crimes. And unfortunately, this doctrine, as I said, is a plank on which the country is run on, right? Let me give you an example. If you, as a little ordinary man from any one of them communities here, decide to go into the bank, to go see if you can either A, open an account or borrow some money to see if you can try a thing, build a business or whatever, right? The bank treat you like you're a criminal. The same thing is true not only with the bank, but some of these government offices. You go in at the tax office to go look about your business, license your car, get a fitness paper, or to pay your taxes, and they treat you like you're a criminal, right? You come through the airport as you come, you go up on a little trip overseas, and customs dig you down like you're a smuggler, a thief, and they do it without fail. So the state agencies operate in a fashion that basically look at the members of the Jamaican population as potential criminals. And so they deem you to be a crook even before you're offered the service, right? And them still treat you with the same suspicion. So unwittingly, the members of the service class are themselves members of the suspected class, and the police fall in that, right? What we have done is that we are literally giving the police a blank check. The commissioner said, right? I didn't engage it. The prime minister talk about it. Them not even hiding the thinking, right? If you think you're bad, because the police are going to deal with you, and nobody else. So the police is now getting this from the highest level of the country, both at the police high command level, the police commissioner, and the prime minister, who is unafraid to tell you, the national minister of insecurity. Same thing, right? Police job is to try to capture the criminal. If you believe that somebody is a suspect, hold him and let's investigate him. Let us build a case against him, right? Arrest, charge, take them through the courts. Let us also find out where you get the gun them on a fire from, right? Because somebody, we don't make gun in Jamaica, and no little common boy can't bring gun through the ports in Jamaica. But if our mantra is that everybody who we have as a suspect, we just go wipe them out, you will never know who the real criminals are, right? And so what we are doing is giving these people the right to murder our population. That is not the role that the police have. We as Jamaicans who are better in terms of our ability to process the information have to call for a halt in this kind of approach, right? That's not the answer. It's only a matter of time. Let me tell them, it is only a matter of time that as we give the police this right to kill off one another, to kill Jamaicans, right? That there's going to be a point at which, because remember, killing is a habit, Killing something, killing anything is like staring into an abyss. And as one friend of mine commented on the Facebook post, he said, at some point, the abyss will look back into you and take you over. And at that point, the good gunmen, which is the police, having eradicated all of the bad gunmen, will still have their thirst for killing, and then will turn on us, the innocent. These are the realities that we're faced with. And it's only when we are prepared to call it what it is, right? Yes, we need to cauterize the criminality. People are saying, oh, but because the police have killed off only by people, we have less murders. I don't know if that is true. Because to say that there is a trending down of murders, you need far more time than a couple of months to make that assessment, right? If you plot Jamaica's murder rate on a graph, it's still going to show you the same bell curve, right? You need 5 to 7 years of data before you can come to any conclusion that whatever measures you are putting in place is working, right? Historically, all of these actions taken against the citizens by the police produce equally negative reactions, responses, right? Our murder rate is driven by the lack of ability to process the thing on the part of the citizens, even among the criminal class, right? Somebody thief a scamming list that belong to another group of scammers, and instead of go work it out, them go kill off one another because them now have the mens rea for work out and understand, say, watch out, the value, the life of, this is a person whose life is important, valuable. No, because we don't have that level of intellectual development. And our politicians, rather than pay attention and look at making a meaningful medium to long-term development that is geared in that direction, what I'm saying is to the police, boy, I see some better going here. See if you can go manage and think. And so police are drive around and you look like somebody where them think, and boom, them just flatten it. And them tell you, say, boy, the man we did want him for a murder will take place. You know, no fingerprint, no nothing, but you pin on something on it. That's where we are. I'm not saying that the police mustn't do them work, but we need to do the work properly. Police activity must be information driven, and the idea must be not to remove people by killing them, but let us arrest them and charge them and bring them through the court system to send that message, right? Because the people who are the real engineers, the puppet masters behind the killings, they're not affected by what's going on, because guess what? Police kill 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. They have 30,000 youth every year who is available to them, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to continue killing off our population? Is that the answer? Eh? Is that the answer? Is this where we feel we have to go? Because I put it to you, it's only a matter of time before then the same people, remember, police come from the same communities where the criminals come from, right? And sometimes them have them little personal vendetta where go on within the communities. And because them have this blank check that the system has handed to them, they can eliminate the transgressors under the guise, right? Under the guise of, we're out some criminal, right? As Derek Dodd says, we have been here before. One more cycle of police hit squads. And Derek, you are absolutely correct, right? We have over the years seemed only ready to throw more guns into the hands of police and to send them out there to go and wipe out poor people, right? As we say, you never hear that police go up at one of them upper St. Andrew place or wherever in some of the better place, residential areas in the parishes, and them hold on pan a man who are bringing gun. We always hear. The other day, the police find in a one lick, the police them find 58 plastic Glock firearms that come through the Montego Bay Wharf, right? And a couple days later, them find 60 odd more. But not a soul has been arrested. None. Right? That is what we need to think. That is that's the kind of response that you expect from a police force that really are doing the work. Because listen, no little barefoot boy can bring a gun through the airport or through the seaport, right? And so it is my view that the police know who are doing them thing here. Who is arming these fellows, right? Who is the runners of coke and who are the head honchos of the scammings and all of them things? Because you need these guns to provide security for these illegal activities, right? But you never hear that. All you hear is that them lick down a little barefoot boy or them lick down 3 or 4 and people jump up and say, hey, Ray, police are going and everything. Until them knock on your door. Well, them not in a knock. Them a kick it in, right? We see what them they do with the man, the accountant man, when the man look for doodles and them light up him house. And this man live up in a top of the line community in a St. Andrew, right? We have to be careful of what it is that we allow, because when we give succor to these types of development, what we are in fact doing is sowing the seeds of our own destruction as a Jamaican community. We're better than this. We're better than this. We have killed some 45,000 of our nationals through gun and other kind of criminal activity. At the same time, the police is killing at the rate that the police are killing people right now. 96 people murdered by the police in 3.5 months. At the rate that they are going, they will have killed over 350 people by the end of the year, which is twice the rate. Remember, the police killing has stepped up. Over the years, police used to kill on an average about 100 or 110 people. Over the course of the last 10 years, that number has raised itself up to 147 people killed by the police. Jamaica only have 2.8 million people, you know. So if you have a country with a population as small as that, and the police have killed almost 1 citizen every day, and we don't seem to understand that that is unfriggin' acceptable in a civilized world, right? 1 per day, that's almost where we are, right? And nobody is looking at this thing because we believe that this is a salve to the murder problem in Jamaica. Police cannot be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. There is no way in any civilized society that that can be allowed to happen. And some of the people who are here, who jump on this thing, one man up on the treader and say, we want to know how many people are being killed by the guns and all the guns are coming into the country. Oh, that is absolutely true. But the same person in another thing jump on a thing and ready to tear down because you don't agree. I mean, I don't have a problem if you don't agree with me, right? One man, when I wrote this article, the first thing him jump on and him say, well, let me read this thing here. Him say what? I need to advise. Let me read the comment. One idiot him say, if the security kill enough of the gun hawks, murders will subside. Really? You will need to take some time and come out for your ivory tower and come to Jamaica and come see what I go on, right? Um, let me find the comment, because it all comments. Here we go. We have to hold ourselves to some higher standards, right? Because as long as this is the only way we look at this thing. What this guy said, what narration did you put out when the murder rate was jacked up by the others? No, you have to be a real ninny to make these comments. And then this other one jump on top of the comment and talk about how much people, may I be informed on how many citizens have been killed by criminals, also how many killed by the police were innocent. How many killed by the police were innocent? The police cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. The police are employed as peace officers. They are there to provide for the domestic security. And so if somebody is a gunman or a potential or a criminal or is suspected of being involved in a criminal activities, the police's job is not to eliminate them, but to bring them to justice. Because these people, regardless of what they may be up to, they are all citizens of Jamaica, right? They're all citizens of Jamaica. We are supposed to have a justice system, not a punishment retribution system. The criminals are still Jamaican citizens and are therefore entitled to service and protection from the very persons who are trying to apprehend them. It is not a situation that because you get the police, if the man fire a gunshot after, you may agree with light him up. We have a problem with that. But that is not that is not the first order. Because remember, if you are able to bring these people before the courts, the justice system, we're able to generate more information that will go to the core of addressing our criminal problem. Who are you working for? Right? No big time smart thinking criminal no out there fire gun, Them find the little minion them who the school system has failed and them put guns in them hand for go do them bidding. And so if the police is only content to eliminate those, you're not solving the crime problem. What you need to be doing is to find out who these people are working for. That's what real policing is concerned with, right? You have training, right? Equipment and training. So you take evasive action, you find a way to bring them to justice. Because killing them, that's not justice. That's barbarism. It makes the police know better than the scourge that they are trying, that they're there to prevent. Right? We need to change our approach. And so that for me, right? That for me is where we have to be. Right? The problem is, as Derek just says, probably big people don't want you to know the answer. And you may very well be correct, Derek. Right? What the thing that gets to me, Derek, right? And I agree with you there. It's not easy for the police to bring in the average gunman, but that's what we employ them finally. You take the job knowing that these are some of the risks. The reality is that we have a much more comprehensive and cohesive program that speaks to crime management and how we deal with criminal activity. And my position is it is not dependent on us murdering people, because you know better than the damn murderer them yourself. We have to find a way. So there has to be a two-pronged approach, right? Or a three-pronged approach if necessary. And that says, A, as a country, we need to invest more in developing our population. We have to start now by looking at the young people and look at how we can marshal them into a better mode of development, right? Provide for better education. A more educated person is less likely to go out and get himself involved in a criminal and gun activity, right? A more educated person is less likely to resort to violence as a means of addressing any domestic disputes that he have. A more educated person or a population with a greater percentage or proportion of educated people redounds to a country that can attract better investments. Better investment means that you have the ability to provide better paying jobs, better jobs that will offer the population better money. And out of that, you are going to be able to establish the roots of changing the trajectory of our economic and social development, right? Those are the facts. That no require no whole heap of scholarship if you understand that, you know. The question though is, are we prepared to make that kind of investment? And my sense is that that's not where we are. The current approaches, we're there already. We've been doing it for 40 years. Every time we have an issue, we jump up and we think. We take Renato Adams and him squad of police murderers, they don't let them jump, kick off the people them door in a Britain and butcher the 7 boy them. Shoot the 7 boy them in the back of them head and present it that they might have shoot out. And nobody in Jamaica question it. Right? No question. And so every time that you allow these supposed law officers to get away with that kind of thing, right? Every time they get away with that, what it does is that it opens up the force to allow more murderers to join up because they know that they won't get away with it, right? We have all kind of hit squad that the government at different points in time, right? Eradication squad, you name them, right? And all that they do is go out there and murder people, and the people and the families who them leave or cry for them loved ones. All they do is become even more hardened gunmen to come back after the thing for find reprisal for people who them kill. Right? That is not the solution. That, my friends, is not a solution. And so we're in an election mode right now. I mean, no, sir, the current administration, because me hear it. Me hear when you listen to the Prime Minister, he make some big talk and some strong talk, like him and the commissioner back it, right? Boy, if I don't take on no thing, the other day I tell the people who I must as a capture land I go on down to Jamaica, and they because I have the police, and they must send the police after the man. You can't talk like that. We have to find a better way to communicate with the public, right? We have a problem, yes. But the problem is not one that you flick a switch and it started yesterday. So it's not going to be eliminated overnight either. It's going to take time, right? And because it's our take time, we need to plan it. My philosophy is my experience, my education tells me that if we are not prepared to make a longer term investment, right? If we're not prepared to do that, we're only going to continue to suffer the same levels of criminality, right? Jamaica is operating now in what I call a culture of fear, right? And because we have this culture of fear that has overtaken the population, this is why this kind of behavior is seen as acceptable, right? And as a consequence, this culture of fear allowed the police in Jamaica to get away with murder, right? That's where we are, right? I listen to some big man. I read some comments from some big man. What the man must say is that, boy, this one man say on a thing that I wrote. Him basically talk about him can't deal with the bleeding heart and thing. And they say, well, the bleeding heart, you can don't want to deal with it until it come at your door, right? What are the police to do? When the numbers spiral, our friends in foreign will reel off statistics about how high the murder rate is and how they will not live here because they are not safe. The fact is that the place is not friggin' safe. Now, when police are acting on credible information, who the hell tell you it's credible information? Let me leave on with a story. I am at a situation years ago where me had a brother who got himself injured in a fracas with somebody in the community where he lived, and him end up in the hospital. And when me go to university hospital, go see, I get most about 30 stitches because man nearly cut off him head, right? And there was a guy there who is a friend who I know him to be undesirable. I mean, I said, no, I don't want you get involved with this. So the next morning, me, I have to go up a Warwick Isle, go look for the man who him report to tell him, to call him off for this thing. Because this is my family, and I can't afford for the thing. And while we are there, this is a man who is a top shotter. And while we are there, he get a phone call from a top man in our police force. This is a long time ago. About 2006, 2007, this happened, right? And the man called him and said, "Oh, you stay?" And he said, "Boy," he said, "I'm on the men's with some youth." And the man said to him, "Oh, you stay?" And he said, "Boy, him and some youth there and thing." He said, "Well, if any of them youth they not stay good, make them leave because them already in the next 3 to 5 minutes." And as him could have hung up the phone and the boy, them about 10 of them disappear through the zinc fence them in a Warwick Isle. Two Toyota Land Cruiser drive over the brow of the hill with some man in some blue uniform, policeman. Right? And the man turned to me after the police them come there and harass me and thing. And when him gone, him say, him paid a particular policeman who shall be nameless $70,000 a month for that kind of information. So let me tell you something. Know this, that among the police criminal there, and enough of these policemen facilitate this criminal element because they make money off it, right? The only people who them are killed are the people them who now let off no money upon them. Let me tell you that, right? And it's important that we understand the environment that we are operating. Let's not be no idiots. I'm not saying that all like policemen are criminal, but we have to understand the structure that of the Jamaican society, how it's make up. Most of the policemen them come from the same communities where the bad man them come from, right? And it is for those reasons why we cannot issue these kind of edicts to police to eliminate people. We can't do it. Right? Because they are drawn from the same population that a criminal them come from. Right? Our crime problem is bigger than us using police as judge, juror, and executioner to deal with. We require a long-term commitment to developing our population until we get to the point where the average Jamaican understands and respects the value of each other's life. We're not going to change this thing overnight, because the same way the criminal don't value these people's lives is the same way the average policeman who come from those communities similarly sees these people as disposable. Right? And so the cycle continues. Right? The cycle continues. We have to, take a more serious approach to addressing this problem, right? And we need to hold these political people who fight one another for political office, to committing to a policy of developing the population of Jamaica. There's no reason why we as Jamaica should have a GDP per capita of $6,000. Not when our neighbors who don't have half the resources that we have is 3 and 4 times our GDP numbers, right? The problem is that those countries are investing in developing their population. We don't. What we are investing in doing is we see those who are from a lower address than the ones that we regale, and we see them as criminals. And so we say to the police, you have the green light, just wipe them out. Really. There was an instance a couple of months ago where police go in a Rockford and kill 3 men, and they sent off a report that there was a gunfight, and they came on a gunfire and they returned the gunfire, and in the process the 3 men were killed. Them 3 men in the 96 statistics, and when the people have investigated and find camera footage, right, it turned out that no gun battle never go on. The policeman them go in at the people in the yard, take out the man out of them yard and shoot them dead, right? But we are prepared to buy the police report that there were gunfire, right? There was a case yesterday morning where them go somewhere around in a Lower St. Andrew there and kill a little boy. The boy work as a forklift operator. Kill him in a house, right? There was no shooting, but the boy dead. Police gunshot, right? And it counts as another fatality brought on by the police. We have to be careful. We have to be more grounded, be more realistic, and understand what it is that we are faced with. Yes, the murder thing is a problem, but the current approach of telling the police to go out there and kill off Jamaica people, picnic, black people, is not the answer, right? There is a better way, and the people have the resources, the time that it can stop it. Maybe you want to think, right? Marcus said. Our reality is that we have a problem that is bigger than what we are proposing as approaches, and we know better, because these are not problems that you can flick a switch and you transform it. We have invested for more than 4 decades in under-investing in our people, and because we have done that, these people are left to their own devices, them involved in all kind of illegal antisocial activities that the system has allowed them to do, right? And some might lead to the gun running and the murdering and whatever, but the solution to it is not to become murderers ourselves, right? And every time that we give succor to the police murdering our citizens, we are saying to them that we are no better than the problem that we are trying to fix. I'm going to leave it right there, right? Let's pick it up again next week, the same time, right? And let me thank everybody who joined the stream over the period. This is what the Jamaica Mix is all about. But we try to have, we pick up strong areas. And next week, I want to look on the approach of elections and the expectations, right? Let me just say, Jagai, this week again, also invite you, since you're there, take a look on our website now at yardmedia.com. Mother's Day come up. Give that special person, find a nice little gift, a piece of art, and give them for the Mother's Day. And of course, join us on Sunday for Sunday Scoops as we take on another big topic. Again, Jagai, And thank you for your time and the respect.